and does something about it.
Not reflect or represent the views of WTMP, its officers, staff, or advisors.
Listen to the Call for Help show with attorney Paul Rebein every Saturday morning at M right here on WTMP. And if you need a personal injury attorney, call the Rebein Brothers PA at 813-305-7285. 813-305-7285.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Call for Help show. I'm your host, attorney Paul Rebein. With me here in the studio, as usual, are my co-hosts, Robin Lockett and Pastor Brenda Fruster. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
We're also honored to have an old friend of mine and fellow troublemaker and radio host on WMNF, attorney Shelley Rebeck. Hi, Shelley.
Hi, Paul.
I was thinking back to some of the cases we did years ago.
Yeah, little did we know the troubles we'd see in the future.
The topic today, the topic all around Tampa Bay, is the suspension of the state attorney, Andrew Warren, by the governor, Ron DeSantis. Kind of came as a surprise to everyone, including Andrew. He was escorted out of his office. The stated,
by an armed guard.
Wow.
You know, someone that was elected twice by the people of Hillsborough County, and he was removed on the order of the governor. Now, the state constitution does give the governor the authority to suspend people who are in office that aren't subject to impeachment, which I guess would be like people who are not judges or things like that. So he does have the authority. The reasons that the Constitution gives for removal of an officer like Mr. Warren is malfeasance, misfeasance, neglect of duty, drunkenness, incompetence, permanent inability to perform official duties, or commission of a felony. I believe the stated reasons were neglect of duty, and the reasons that were given were that he had signed onto a statement stating that he would not prosecute people who are charged with trying to get an abortion, or providing an abortion, or he wouldn't prosecute people for, I guess, being involved in gender-related medical care. There's not currently any law relating to that could be prosecuted. But these were the two things, and I think something related to his decision not to prosecute protesters at one point. He was surrounded by sheriffs, our own Sheriff Chad Chronister, Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd. I have no idea what Grady Judd had to do with Andrew Warren or Hillsborough County, Pasco County Sheriff, and of course our former Chief of Police, Dugan. Shelley, you were involved, I think, in a protest relating to this. What's your take? What's your take on what's going on here?
I said at the protest, and I believe it today, that if you are a student of history, I think you would see the parallels between what has happened now and Germany in 1933. And I say that completely without hyperbole. I don't think I'm overstating it, because what we see is DeSantis really descending into autocracy, into tyranny. I mean, he basically nullified the voters of Hillsborough County, who made a decision not once but twice to elect Andrew Warren as their prosecutor. And full disclosure, I didn't even support Andrew Warren in his first race. I supported his opponent then, Mark Ober. I knew him, and Andrew sort of came out of nowhere, kind of like a carpetbagger, in my opinion. Then he wasn't really an insider for the local legal community, so I didn't support him. But when he was elected, and I saw what he was trying to do in terms of criminal justice reform, in using his office to promote some criminal justice reform, and his prosecutorial priorities, when I saw what he was doing, I became, a big supporter. And I say that this is Germany in 1933 because the parallels to the way that, the power structure was changed in 1933 in Germany, to the way that the power structure of this governor is being changed in Florida, are just really overt. I mean, he came in, nullified an election by pulling this prosecutor out of service. He stood there and announced it behind him with all of these armed sheriffs looking like they were his, his brown shirts, his SS crew. It was done for publicity for his presidential run, but it also was a fundamental loss to us and our democratic rights.
Well, under the Constitution, it's only a suspension. The Senate can convene and vote to return him to office or remove him permanently. From my understanding, that's not going to happen until like May. So
it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen, first of all, because, the Florida Senate, the whole Florida legislature has been controlled by Republicans for a quarter of a century now. And we've seen in the last Florida legislative session that they are willing to just, bow down to whatever DeSantis wants. I mean, the laws that have come out of the last two legislative sessions promoted by DeSantis have been, in my view, unconstitutional in many ways. They've restricted free speech. They've, promoted the banning of books. They have, promoted the bullying of kids in school with gender dysphoria. I mean, they've basically done whatever DeSantis has wanted. And so if DeSantis wants this, he's going to get this. The rules say that they have to set a hearing within 90 days of the suspension, and then they have until the end of the next legislative session, as I understand it, to make their decision. Well, you can bet that by the end of the next legislative session, they will have put in place an abortion ban, beyond the 15 weeks, but a more extensive ban. And then, in my judgment, I think they'll just approve the suspension and it'll become permanent.
So the voters of Hillsborough County voted fairly strongly to put in a Democrat, and the governor decides to remove the Democrat and put in a Republican.
Voted twice.
I don't really think that's the way the Constitution was planned. Let's get some other opinions on this. And Malcolm, welcome to the show. He was not on at the outset of the show.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. What's going on?
Shelley, it's not really anybody's birthday, but
Okay.
Shelley? Yes, it is. Shelley?
Every day you wake up.
Every day is our
Celebrate
birthday.
every day.
Every day.
Look
Robin.
at Paul's face when he said it too. It's not really anybody.
Yeah, no, it ain't there, yeah, bro. We just do that. We just be playing. That's all.
I'm just trying to get context.
Don't listen to Malcolm, though. He just say that. He just say it.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Go
think that this is a real blow. I said because we worked hard to get Andrew in when he initially ran. That was a hard fight, because he was going against somebody that had been there for years, years, and it's the establishment. And, we prevailed. The Senate, I don't see, I don't see where the Senate will reverse what the DeSantis has done, because, they're his, they follow his direction. The only thing that I see is that we vote a new governor in.
That's
We
it.
have to be very intentional on now. We have to really get out, because these are scary times. He's doing things just because he can. If it's a gray area, because it's a gray area, prove him wrong.
Yeah.
You have to go through the process of trying to prove him wrong. So we need to be very mindful of what we're seeing, and not saying, "Hey, that won't happen to us." We'll be back on the bus, in the back of the bus pretty soon.
Absolutely.
I mean, the other thing he
completely
did,
agree with that.
the other thing he did yesterday, which was so appalling, was, and this is another reason why I say it's like Germany in 1933, is he directed the Florida Board of Medicine, which was meeting in Fort Lauderdale as he was holding his press conference about suspending Andrew Warren. He directed the Florida Board of Medicine to promulgate a rule that requires transgender people to register on a list with the state. Now, making lists, that's the first step. Remember that, Niemöller statement about, first they came for the socialists and I did not speak up because I was not a socialist. And then they came for the communists and I did not speak up because I was not a communist. Then they came for the Jews and I did not speak up, and then they came for me and there was no one left to speak up. Well, making lists is always the first step. And DeSantis has asked the Florida Board of Medicine, which is now considering this, to promulgate a rule to require that transgender people be registered with the state, and that anyone who's receiving transgender medical care be registered with the state.
So what about HIPAA laws?
Yeah, good question. Very good question. I don't know the answer.
I think we should all register as transgender.
I am Spartacus. Yeah,
let's overwhelm the system. That's I hadn't heard that, Shelley.
Yeah, they met yesterday in Fort Lauderdale. There was a big demonstration there too. Anna Escamani was there from Orlando, protesting, and apparently the Florida Department of Medicine is now considering that rule. They didn't make a decision yesterday, to my knowledge. But, it's no different from what he was doing with the Florida Department of Education. For example, this is what makes what he did with Andrew so hypocritical. He told the Florida Department of Education not to follow the federal Title IX laws. Mm-hmm. Told them don't follow the law. Don't follow the law. And then he fires Andrew, suspends Andrew, and claims that Andrew is not following the law, when in fact the laws that he referred to as the basis for Andrew's suspension don't exist. They don't exist.
Yeah.
There is no law right now that he could enforce related to transgender services for kids. There's no such law. And as for the 14-week abortion ban, the fact is that a Florida court has found the ban to be unconstitutional based on the Florida Constitution right to privacy, which is broader than the federal Constitution. And case law precedent has determined that constitutional right to privacy in the Florida state constitution applies to abortion. Now, that decision finding the 15-week abortion ban unconstitutional, that decision is on appeal. And so it's been stayed, but it's still in the courts. It's still pending. The privacy right in the Constitution still exists. So, Andrew's position is, I'm the one following the law. That is the current state of the law. And no one has brought me a case and asked me to prosecute anyone based on the 15-week ban. So, the whole thing is just totally a circus and a sideshow and a dog and pony show designed to bring excitement to the base that he's relying on to carry him to the presidency. That's really what this is about.
Well, it's a I dare you to the voters that this is offending, right? So those transgenders, the people that support abortions, the women that want to get an abortion and is in fear of doing so, this should mobilize everybody to get out. Black people don't want to sit in the back of the bus because that's next. It should be mobilizing everybody to get out and vote in November to make sure that he does not remain our governor.
I mean, I hope so, because all of these rights that you referred to are really on the ballot. Abortion rights, for example, are on the ballot. Yeah. Because if DeSantis gets reelected, there will be a total abortion ban in the state of Florida. Abortion rights are on the ballot. You know, the other things that you talk about, you don't want to sit in the back of the bus. Well, they had a meeting also yesterday, I think. It was this week. The Florida Department of Education is requiring educators to go to these training meetings for the new Florida civics education program that they've now promulgated. And that civics education program yesterday taught the educators themselves, so that they were supposed to teach the kids. It taught them that Washington and Jefferson were against slavery without ever mentioning that they were slaveholders themselves. It's unbelievable. I mean, it really is 1984. It's a form of indoctrination where up is down and black is white and day is night, and it's horrible. It's nothing but indoctrination. It's propaganda, and it's so dangerous because it's directed to the next generation.
I know we're engulfed in what's going on in Florida. Are any other governors doing this?
They will. I'm sure the trend is to emulate what people like Ron DeSantis are doing. I did find it really interesting that he keeps going back to this transgender issue. It's like, why are you so focused on that, as if it's some major problem in Florida? It's not. I guess it's just they're an easy target, and it's a hot button issue, and he got some mileage out of going after Disney, and he's going to keep doing it. But
they're a vulnerable population, you know, and they have they're a constituency with very little support.
Correct. Even from my understanding, even within the LGBTQ community.
Well, they're the most vulnerable within a vulnerable community, and Black women, transgender people are the most vulnerable within that vulnerable community, in a vulnerable community. And, I mean, this is, again, why I say it's like Germany in 1933. You start there and you work your way. You work your way to broader and more discriminatory policies against bigger and bigger groups as you gain power. And what they're saying in the political world is that Florida and Texas are the laboratories for this whole anti-democracy movement. Texas, you asked about any other governors. Abbott in Texas is pretty much very similar to DeSantis in terms of
I was going to say that I was going to say that Texas Abbott, Governor Abbott, is, when Robin presented the question, that Abbott is another DeSantis, and but I know that there's more. There's so many more. You're just not hearing it as much as we're hearing DeSantis and we're hearing Abbott, but surely there are more.
We still have the right to vote, and better exercise it while you can.
Use it.
They're going to strip that too. Isn't Abbott running for president also?
I don't know.
I
I
haven't
mean,
heard
he's
that.
not. DeSantis is really the front runner now.
I have to
for
say,
Trump.
this is the first time I ever said, I hope Trump gets him. I'm like, Trump, where are you? We need you to go after this guy because he's been surprisingly quiet about DeSantis.
They've been, from my understanding, they've been feuding from behind. They've been feuding. But somebody asked me if I had a choice, would it be DeSantis or Trump? I said Trump. I said DeSantis understands law. Trump fumbles into stuff, right?
Exactly.
He's a
A
windbag.
moron. He's a moron.
Right.
Let's be honest,
But
he's a
DeSantis
moron.
understands it.
Well,
And DeSantis is, Harvard and Yale and smart and evil. Trump is an evil moron.
Yeah.
But DeSantis is, smart.
I'm just waiting. I cannot wait for the nickname for that Trump's going to give DeSantis. I don't know what it's, but I can't wait. I really, Donald, if you're listening, I know you probably are. This one, you need to. He's really good at that too. So I'm anxiously awaiting what the nickname will be. So yeah, it's very disturbing. And the other thing that I noticed was there was a moment after George Floyd when it felt like things were changing. And a lot of what Andrew Warren was doing in terms of decisions not to prosecute people who were pulled over, for having a taillight out or whatever, that then the police said, they resisted arrest or something like that, was designed to kind of address these issues. But I fear that moment is past. It feels like it. And now is the backlash. I'm going to ask you guys this. Did you all see the mayor's tweet in response to what happened?
Read it.
I thought it was tepid. Doesn't mention Andrew Warren by name. She said, removing a duly elected official should be based on egregious actions, not political statements. In a free state, voters should choose their elected officials. Tampa remains one of the safest cities of its size, thanks to the cooperation between our officers and law enforcement partners. What do you think about that? Is that a strong enough? Are you feeling any outrage there?
I'm glad she came out and said it. It's today in today's Tampa Bay Times, there's an editorial, which I think is really a strong editorial against Chad Cronister for allowing himself to be used like that.
100%.
As part of that dog and pony show that DeSantis put on.
Hold on, Shelley. We got a caller. Caller.
Starting route to 1.
Welcome to the Call for Help show.
Street North.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm appreciating the discussion. I want to say two things real quickly. Number one, if it get any worse than it already is, very worse for African Americans, it can't get no worse than what it is, because we are catching the brunt of the ugliness of America still. What is being called on now should be apparent is that if others don't want to feel this wrath, those in the legal community need to be concerned that now policy or legislation might be crafted that won't allow them to defend certain people in court, thereby affecting their financial dollars. Secondly, what DeSantis did, in my opinion, was put a hole in the whole Democratic apparatus leadership in Hillsborough County, because Republicans had not been able to win seats as declared Republicans. But what he has done is open the door thereby, Andrew, if he decides to run for a third time, crafting his inability, all of the slander that's attached now to his former post, and then perhaps allowing a Republican to run for the seat of state attorney, as he's already placed someone in that position. But I think everybody needs to be concerned and not leave it to poor working class Black people that catches hell from America to do this heavy lifting by themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Great point.
Well, I have to disagree with the caller on one thing. It can get worse. She said it can't get any worse. Well, I have to disagree. It can get a lot worse.
Yes,
This is just the beginning. Other than that, I think she makes a good point.
Well, I agree with the Tampa Bay Times, Shelley, that I was surprised to see the sheriff up there, and I think one of his other officers up there with him. It's like,
well, you know what's really
doing?
What's amazing is that for Andrew's second run, Cronister's wife, Nikki DeBartolo, was on the finance committee for his political committee. And just a couple months ago, the Tampa Tiger Bay Club, which is a bipartisan political discussion club, invited all the law enforcement community and Julianne Holt, who's the public defender, to speak about what was happening in the criminal justice system in Hillsborough. And Chad Cronister got up there and talked about basically how good things were and how they all got along and how they were working together on all these programs to promote, better mental health responses instead of, always direct law enforcement responses, and promote mental health programs in the jail. And, and so he got up there talking about how good things were. And his wife was raising money for Andrew's election. And same thing with Cliff Curry. I don't know if you know him. He's a big Republican donor from East Hillsborough, big Republican out there. And he was on the finance committee or the political committee to reelect Andrew Warren. And then this morning, right after the suspension, he tweets out or Facebook's a meme, basically saying how great it was that DeSantis suspended Andrew. These people are just
in politics. You can never really trust anyone, I guess. And
you want a friend in politics, get a dog. Who said that? Harry Truman, maybe?
I don't know, but that had to hurt to see Cronister up there, and let's all remember that.
But read that editorial, because it's a great editorial. Didn't you think so, Robin? The editorial today about Cronister?
Yes. And so this is a lesson to the community also, right? Because I hear in the community so many times, I don't vote party, I vote person. And I always tell them that person within that party is going to line up with that party at the end. They'll give you the crumbs. They'll see you $500 for your event and so forth. But when it's time to make a policy change that's going to hurt Black people, they're going to stand with their party.
Well, unfortunately, our time is up. We will see you all next week on the Call for Help show. Shelley, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it. Great conversation.
Oh, yeah. And you promised me a promo from my show, Midpoint, on WMNF at 10 a.m. every Wednesday morning. Tune in there for news and public affairs with a local perspective.
Definitely will.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.